Agent Orange was a powerful mixture of chemical defoliants used by U.S. military forces during the Vietnam War to eliminate forest cover for North Vietnamese and Viet Cong troops, as well as crops that might be used to feed them. The U.S. program of defoliation sprayed more than 19 million gallons of herbicides over 4.5 million acres of land in Vietnam. Agent Orange, which contained the chemical dioxin, was the most commonly used of the herbicide mixtures and the most effective. It was later revealed to cause serious health issues, including tumors, birth defects, rashes, psychological symptoms, and cancer among returning U.S. servicemen. Ron said that his mom had him get tested for Agent Orange when he got back from the war. He received a letter in the mail from the government that stated his test results came back clear. About 45 years later, he was found to have many of the diseases caused by Agent Orange. The government lied to him to cover up their mistake. I talked to my mom's cousin, Scott Spencer, who was drafted into the Army in 1968. The most interesting part of our conversation was when he said that when he was first drafted for the Vietnam War, he supported it, and when he came home, he no longer supported the war. He told me about a time when he was in charge of guarding a top-secret building that he had to climb up to defend. This seemed like a normal task until he told me that if his unit saw people approaching, they were not allowed to retreat or hide, and if they did, they would be shot by their own commander. I can definitely understand how his opinion changed about the war when his life was threatened by his own country if he were to try and save himself from death. He actually marched in a protest against the war. He felt that the South Vietnamese government was so corrupt that he wrote a letter to President Nixon to share his opinion and suggest that the U.S. pull out of Vietnam. He said after he wrote the letter, his phone was tapped. Whenever he would get a phone call, it would be clicking in the background. President Nixon clearly had expertise in phone tapping and wanted to make sure and watch those in the U.S. who were protesting the war. The distrust in the government after the war became very clear to me after talking with my mom's cousin. He couldn't even share his opinion without being watched. How is he supposed to trust a government that wouldn't let him express his opinion, and how is he supposed to trust a government that knew how corrupt the war was but ignored people's desire to pull out of Vietnam? Looking at the graph of public trust in the government from 1958 to 2015, it is clear that there was a steady decline in trust starting in 1964. The Gulf of Tonkin incident came out then, and trust steadily declined for the rest of the Vietnam War. When scandals that occurred during the war started to be released to the public, trust went down because people were finally realizing that the government was lying to them. In 1968, the Tet Offensive came out, and trust continually decreased. Not only did we lose almost 3,800 men during the Tet Offensive, but the American people realized that they were lied to. The government kept saying we were winning the war, but then all of a sudden 70,000 Viet Cong launched surprise attacks, and people back home were watching it on their TV every night. The Pentagon Papers were released in 1971 and disclosed that for 6 months before the Tonkin Gulf incident, the United States had been mounting secret military attacks against North Vietnam while planning to obtain a congressional resolution that the administration regarded as the equivalent of a declaration of war. More and more scandals continued to come out during the Vietnam War, increasing the distrust in the government. Scandals from the government continually increased from 1973 to 2015. In 1972, the Watergate scandal was released, further proving that people can't trust the president during an election. The economy boomed in the late 1990s and confidence in the government increased. In 2001, the 9/11 attacks transformed public attitudes into a positive trust in the government. After the boom in 2001, more leaks came out and trust declined around 2009 to 2015.
Do you trust the government, Jackson?
No,
Why not?
because they don't tell us the truth. They only tell us part of the truth or stretch the truth or don't even tell us the truth at all.
Do you trust the government?
No.
Do you trust the government?
No.
Do you trust the government?
No.